with that, I'm going to turn to our first technology spotlight. The spotlight is called energy. It's the perspective of energy, sustainability, and efficiency. Energy is an inevitable cost for all of us in doing business, as we just heard. And energy consumption ranges in a whole different variety of ways. And so this tech spotlight will focus on industry's perspective of energy. And so let me introduce our panel moderator, Mr. Joe Gehrdes. Joe Gehrdes is a Director of Community Relations for Huntsville Utilities. He joined the Huntsville Utility team in 2011 as the company's first governmental affairs manager. Since then, his role has grown into oversight of community and public relations, media relations, governmental and regulatory affairs, and residential energy services. He currently serves on many different committees here in Huntsville, including the Madison County Chamber of Commerce. So with that, Joe, over to you.
Thank you, Grace. I appreciate it. Very kind introduction, I think of which most I wrote. So
That's
only because they asked me to.
That's why it's so good. Thanks.
And then I'll take a moment of privilege to stop all the groaning for my background. I want to assure everyone that all these items you see behind me for the university which I attended are kept here in my office to maintain positive marital relations at home. So somebody said yesterday it was a bit overboard, but it's because I don't want to clutter up the house with it. So we have 4 panelists to talk about energy efficiency in manufacturing today. And so what I'd like to do is go around the panel with introductions, and as you introduce yourself and talk about why you are joining us today, take a few minutes to talk about your company's sustainability plan, if you have one, and if not, what have you done to define energy reductions or efficiency measures in your company? So we'll start with my coworker, Stacy Cantrell. She is our Vice President of Engineering here at Huntsville Utilities. Stacy?
So thanks, Joe. So I guess I'm the odd man out on this panel because we don't actually, we do consume electricity and water and gas, but not for any sort of manufacturing process like the other panelists. So we're in a little bit of a different position. Of course, we do appreciate reliable power as much as the rest of you. In fact, we had a brief outage earlier this week that affected a good part of our building. But of course, we've got emergency backup on our critical circuits, and those are things that we've looked at for many years. Our dispatch office has emergency backup. So those are the kind of things that we do and that you all, I'm sure, do to protect yourself when there are hopefully infrequent power outages. We look at it from a different standpoint, of course, that we're trying to give you all the most reliable power so that hopefully you even get to the point where you take it for granted. We're looking at monitoring our system. We look at where do we need to do capital improvements, where do we have weaknesses, what's been going on, getting overloaded, so that we're building a good, strong, solid grid. So that's what we're trying to do on our side for all of our customers and all the manufacturing and that are moving into Huntsville. Recently, last several years, there have been a lot of technology developments. So we're looking at those things. How can we use that to provide even better services and even more reliable services and give you more information about the services that you're providing? So I'll stop there, and we'll probably get into more detail later.
Thank you, Stacy. Next up, we're going to introduce Dawn James from Microsoft. Dawn?
Good. Thank you for having me today. So again, my name is Dawn James. I am the Director of U.S. Sustainability and Environmental Sciences at Microsoft. And you asked a little bit about Microsoft's sustainability program. And we have quite a bit of a robust commitment Microsoft has made recently around our commitment to be carbon negative by 2030. And that is that Microsoft also agrees by 2050 that we'll remove all the environmental carbon that the company has emitted directly or by electrical consumption. We have made the commitment to be carbon negative by 2050. So not only have we made the commitment for our own selves and how we are going to be negative by 2050 and be carbon, be able to be carbon, meet the Paris Climate Accord agreement by 2030, we're also looking at reducing all of our worldwide emissions by 2030, remove all the carbon that's entered the atmosphere that Microsoft is responsible for. And also one of the things that we've done is we put $1 billion investment, basically put our money where our mouth is, and being able to finance new carbon reduction removal technologies. And also we've made new commitments to product development with our customers. So one of the things that I personally focus on in my role is really enabling our customers that have the same goals or are looking to make some of the same commitments that Microsoft has made. And we help our customers to enable them on this journey, when we see it really as a digital transformation journey that is able to enable sustainability goals. So we look at being able to work and partner with our customers, being able to remove barriers on this journey, also being able to create new incentives for change, because we know that this change is not easy. So coming up with ways that we can use the technology, right, to create these incentives while also creating new opportunities for growth. We all know that this is a brand new world, and we really are working hand in hand with our customers as partners as we go on this journey together.
Thank you. I think that there's a lot to take from that. I don't think 45 minutes is going to be long enough for this panel. So next up, we've got John Winkler from USACE. John?
A little bit outside probably the main line of this session. I'm DOD. I work for the Corps of Engineers. The U.S. Army Engineering Support Center is an arm of the Corps of Engineers, but we're a little bit outside the norm. The Corps of Engineers has two primary product lines, those being civil works and then military construction. We don't do either one of those, but we plug in. We serve as a specialized execution agent to the Corps and its customers. One of those specialized areas is in energy. And in Huntsville Center, we have one of the divisions, we're broken up into directorates and divisions, and one of my division, the energy division, offer a multitude of services and support across Army and DOD for customers that do have production goals, like through third-party financing like ESPCs, UESCs. An ever-growing program we have is our commercial utilities program, where we'll engage through utility rate intervention or any element that would help to better a customer's desire, whether it be for review, focus on a consumption reduction. We have a multitude of tools where we try to provide the technical resources, and then we can follow on with a program management and contracting support to help get them what we need. So we're truly a third-party DOD to where it needs to be to meet their mission. A couple of the other programs real quick that are in the energy division. One is Resource Energy Manager, and personnel to work solely focused on developing projects in line with that customer's needs, whether it be for consumption reduction, that resiliency, or wherever they're looking to get with their goals. Conservation investment program, ERSIP, that's a MILCON funded program. Our role in that is helping to develop a growing program. Out there, it's probably about 80 million annually at this point. Those projects are actually executed by the geographic districts. And the last one is, as mentioned earlier about metering by Huntsville Utilities. That's something we've been doing for over a decade now, where we rolled out the first system for Army, really, that was corporate wide, if you will. The connectivity, the biggest challenge there on some of this utilities effort, especially the metering, has been for us the cybersecurity element that plays into it. So it adds complexity there. And I got a note that I'm breaking up, so I'll try to get another headpiece here in a minute, but that's all I got for now. Thanks.
Yeah, was hesitant to interrupt you. I think we got most of what you were
Back to
saying
you, Joe.
through that. Yeah, thank you, John. So I was hesitant to interrupt you because I think we were all sort of getting most of it. But yeah, if you can work on your signal strength there in between questions, that would be fantastic. And so last and certainly not least is Stephen Feld with Raytheon. Stephen, if you would introduce yourself to the group.
Hi, my name is Steve Feld, and I represent the Facilities, Workplace Strategies, and Real Estate team for the Raytheon Missiles and Defense part of our company. And thanks for inviting me this year. I appreciate that. So Raytheon Technologies is an aerospace and defense company that provides advanced systems and services for commercial, military, and government customers worldwide. Now, our company recently formed earlier this year, around April, through the merger of Raytheon Company and United Technologies Corporation. We're headquartered in Waltham, Massachusetts. Raytheon Technologies consists of 4 specialized businesses: Raytheon Missiles and Defense, Intelligence and Space, Pratt & Whitney, and Collins Aerospace. That brings 190 plus years of combined innovation and industry leadership. And we have all 4 present in Huntsville, which is very unique for our new corporation because it's the only place, I believe, in the country that represents all 4 businesses are represented. So at this time, we're learning much about one another as we grow and move forward. And it's been a very good experience so far, getting to know our new cohort. Raytheon Technologies has developed 5-year greenhouse gas reduction goals using an absolute reduction method. And it's also inclusive of our energy reduction goals as well, which is also absolute as well. But unfortunately, it's not approved for release at this time, so I can't bring that all out. There's some things I can talk to in best practices as well, though. So progress toward completion of our BMPs and greenhouse gas reduction goals are reported quarterly to our executives, but we monitor and report them at the local management level monthly. That way we can look for any type of trends that might be occurring. Raytheon leadership orchestrated the development of our state-of-the-art Huntsville manufacturing facility on Redstone Arsenal. Our manufacturing facility utilizes state-of-the-art techniques designed with no-lift operations and battery-powered automated guided vehicles to carry our missile products. We also have torque-operated hand tools automated to provide only the torque values required for specified operational tasks, and they're programmed to validate the operator's training and security records. So that way, if you're not trained or your training isn't on target and you don't have the security level, you cannot operate the tool. We've implemented standards for power redundancy for critical operations, such as data centers, cranes for safety, and factory critical equipment using natural gas for our generator at Redstone. Found that to be very helpful because, you know, the 2011 tornado incident that we had here, we really struggled with getting diesel gas delivered to our Jan Davis facility. So that was a lesson learned for us. So when we built our factory, we made sure that we had natural gas on the generator. We've recently implemented advanced data center designs and now using back-of-rack chilled water cooling for high heat generating systems that allows us to reduce our footprint in these data centers and provide, say, more efficient cooling methods to the high heat units. Raytheon has implemented building automation systems with integrated fault detection systems. These are commissioned on initial installation and periodically validated. This is especially effective for HVAC economizers and dampers where calibration is likely to slip over time. Our facilities engineering and reliability department performs on-site fault detection diagnostics, vibration analysis and air balancing, calibration and air quality testing if those services are required. We can also use third party as needed. Sometimes that is required as well, especially for new installations. We have implemented a program called Smart Campus to monitor our building automation systems nationwide. This aids in early failure prediction and maintenance, also helps with troubleshooting real time. The Smart Campus resides on the Raytheon Technologies internal cloud and monitors our facilities 24/7 at our West Coast Control Center. Additionally, this BAS is utilized as a sub-meter to track energy consumption where inline meters do not exist. Energy efficiency improvement is our primary focus for reducing the greenhouse gases, and Raytheon Technologies has identified 12 best management practices in energy and greenhouse gas reduction. Implementation of these best management practices are now required by all Raytheon Technology manufacturing sites along with waste and water reduction initiatives. One of these that I'd like to share is performance of the Energy Star treasure hunts. I don't know if anybody's ever experienced those, but it's quite interesting. It's typically a 3-day activity focused on low cost and no cost actions to reduce energy consumption. Typically starts on an off day, like a Sunday, when the plant's shut down, so we can baseline with no utilization. And then we start on Monday when the plant spins up, and we start monitoring all of our air systems, power utilization, equipment, lighting, windows, everything. So we use cross-functional teams to analyze and evaluate savings opportunities by observing our daily activities. And this year, for the first time, we'll be performing a virtual treasure hunt. So I'm looking forward to that. Primary focus again is on energy waste. And outcomes from these events have led to the installation or implementation of variable speed air compressors, which we use wherever we possibly can, where it makes sense. Redundancy in compressors and chillers, especially for critical operations, and purchasing high efficiency equipment. And when I say redundancy, I also mean for generator power for backups to data centers and critical lab operations. Thermal storage systems, we've installed waterless urinals that typically save around 24,000 gallons a year each unit. And the installation of variable frequency drives, I mentioned that. And then lighting LED replacements, we just finished Jan Davis last year with all of the LED replacements. And also starting to use smart power strips in our offices. So that way, when there's a lag in time or systems not being used, it can shut down. You can program the time in these typically. And last, we use a program called Night Watchman, so that when our facilities are shut down, people go home for the night. Sometimes they leave monitors on, things that are not critical. We can put non-critical equipment on the Night Watchman so that it will automatically shut down at a certain time. Employee can override it if they want, if they're still there. And I really want to thank you for this opportunity.
Well, I want to thank you for such a thorough introduction because you knocked about half of my questions off of my list. And that was a lot more information really than I thought you'd be able to share, and want to show some sensitivity to the fact that you guys are, especially you and Dawn, are in very competitive spaces. You want to be careful about things you say. And it sounds to me like you're ahead of the curve in terms of efforts that you're taking. So my first question will be for Dawn then. What is the impetus for this? Are you forecasting regulatory pressure? Is this a balance of environmental responsibility and just sort of being a cut above your competitors? What is the company's motivation for taking steps that you described?
Yeah, sure. So first and foremost, we are about people and the planet, and enabling all the organizations on the planet and people within them to do more. So we come from a people-centric approach and caring about humanity, right? So that's where it starts, and I can say that from a personal perspective. One of the things at Microsoft is being able to enable employees to be able to do more as well. So I look at energy transition and I look at sustainable futures. I look at it as a very personal issue for me. So I am doing the job that I love because it means something to me. So that is first and foremost. And I can say that my sentiments are shared with our customers. So when I have conversations with the C-suite, when I talk to operation managers, or even when I talk to frontline workers, they are concerned about safety. They're concerned about workforce transformation, what's happening with the change, digitalization, and what that means for their future. They're concerned about also keeping up with competition, what's happening on a geopolitical standpoint, and how that affects their job. Just like we were kind of talking earlier with the folks really taking energy efficiency to heart over the last few years. I remember when I was a kid that was a really big deal, and also saving water. And nowadays we've done a lot, and we've made a lot of strides with efficiency and energy consumption. We still have a long way to go, but because of that, we have new problems. We have new challenges that we face as an industry, and part of that is, looking at the electrification of our automobile force and what that means. We're looking at energy scarcity in rural areas, broadband scarcity in inner cities. We're looking at environmental policy that's not being fairly distributed among different areas in this country and across the world. So these are very, very real issues that affect companies. Right, it affects industry, and it also affects C-suite in that their shareholders also care about how they face these very real problems. So to answer your question, why? It's because it's a humanitarian issue, and it affects industry, it affects our bottom line, and it is a deeply personal issue for us as a company and us as humans on the planet.
So thinking about why a company, maybe a smaller company, and I'm thinking about how the core serves its customers. John, can you talk about how you look for ways for companies that maybe don't have the resources that a Microsoft or a Raytheon has to move forward into this space, be it through incentives offered by either private or governmental entities? Does the core advise customers on taking advantage of opportunities like that so that they can move forward into this space?
Yeah, so again, our primary customer base, can you hear me all right now,
It's a little bit better.
Joe?
It's a little better. Still
Okay.
pretty choppy.
I apologize. We don't have the Google Fiber out here yet. I apologize, and we're not back in the office.
That was aimed at you, Stacy.
With our DoD customer base, right? So it's our customers are all government. They're all, but they all have their own production lines, if you will. The overall military is driven towards that. And again, we don't set policy as the core. We execute for others. But we do provide that technical expertise. And actually, a lot of the policy that comes out of Army that drives, which is the driver for the customer's action, many times the Corps is hired to write that guidance for higher Department of Army for that implementation because of the technical expertise that we have. Our interaction with industry is trying to marry up the providers in industry to help the government. And on the small business front, I know this isn't exactly what you're speaking to, but Huntsville Center in particular has extremely high small business achievements on trying to develop companies that can then grow to help provide maybe a Microsoft or other external companies with achieving their goals related to utilities, whether it be the consumption or whatever their direction is that they're going.
And that's very similar, I think, to the role that Huntsville Utilities plays and our partnership with TVA, looking for opportunities that a customer can benefit from. I certainly work in that space. Stacy works in that space. So Stacy, can you think of any examples or maybe something you see on the horizon? Because we're entering new administration. I think, at least speaking for myself professionally, I see a lot of opportunity to really push off into some of these new technologies and opportunities. And the hope there, for myself at least, is that the federal government and perhaps local governments and certainly TVA, it's been the case with TVA, they will incentivize those opportunities because the whole system benefits from it. So Stacy, can you comment on some things that we're seeing that we're looking at maybe chasing or implementing that will benefit our customers?
So of course, and for all the participants, let me say that our moderator probably knows more about this than I do. So Joe, feel free to correct me if I say anything wrong, or at least
I would never correct you, Stacy.
But over the years, TVA has, to varying degrees, supported different programs to promote energy efficiency, to even promote solar to some degree. And Huntsville Utilities in particular recently has really taken advantage of energy efficiency programs in homes. We had, I think, what we called an extreme energy makeover program for a few years. We're able to go into, I believe, hundreds of homes and upgrade those homes with energy efficiency appliances and insulation and windows and other type things to benefit that homeowner and certainly improve their electric bills. So improve the quality of their home and their electric bills. That is continuing to some degree. It's a different program now. But it is continuing with funding, I believe, from both TVA and donations from,
That's right.
from our, well, somewhat from our employees, but also our customers are able to donate to our Project Share program, which supports this. So, you know, it seems like every few years the programs change and there are a little bit different rules. And what I have seen happen over the years is TVA is sort of releasing more and more of that control out to the local power companies. So we're sort of developing our own programs a little more lately. Very recently, some of you may have heard we've signed a new agreement with TVA, which allows for some flexibility in where we purchase our power, where we obtain our power. For years and years, we've been a provider or a distributor for the TVA and purchased all of our power through TVA. The new agreement allows some flexibility there, so we can start exploring a little bit with alternate generation ourselves, which we were kind of limited in how we could do that under the previous agreement. But we do promote energy efficiency programs. It's kind of odd because our only source of income is when people consume electricity, water, and gas. So, Steve, I was glad to hear that you saw the value of natural gas generators, and so that's good for us. But at the same time, we recognize the need for our customers to have a more controlled consumption of their energy, and what that does overall to the production. So when you think about efficiency, the first level is just sort of reduction, and people say, oh, well, you need to adjust your thermostat, you need to change out your light bulbs, or do different things to just reduce your consumption. But efficiency also goes a little deeper into how you use those services. So, at what time are you using them? And our CEO, Mr. Kelly, talked a little bit about how some folks want to use an alternate source of energy and then have the traditional electric grid as a backup. Well, then the traditional electric grid has to be just as big and just as robust and have just as many generating plants as it always did. So having that on standby could be an inefficient use of resources. So let's look at how we balance all those things and use every source in its most appropriate manner. I often use the analogy of the interstate. If you go out on most interstates at 2 a.m., you think, why is this so big? We don't need this big interstate. But if you go out at other times, it's not big enough. So if we could just get everybody to spread out their driving, maybe you only need 2 lanes, but that's not the way it works.
If we could just reduce the number of accidents that happen between here and Birmingham, then I think we could get a more efficient use out of Interstate 65. But and kind of going off of what Stacy's saying is it has taken some time for the utilities to figure out how we best utilize these new technologies that our customers want to balance out what our requirement is, and that's maintaining the infrastructure to make sure you have power when you need it. That costs money. You don't just put a cable in the ground or put a cable in the air, and that's the end of your cost. As you all know, that's an ongoing cost. And so we have to strike a balance. But we're figuring that out with the help of some of the things that companies like yours are doing. And there's a lot of, for 70 years, our industry didn't change very much. And so in a relatively short period of time, we've seen a lot of opportunity arise for businesses like yours, even right down to the residential customer, to sort of take control of the product and have more control over how they use it and what they pay for it. So talking about discovery there, Steve, can you give us a little history lesson on when Raytheon kind of figured out that this was a huge opportunity for the company, especially in terms of your bottom line, and how you realized that you could take advantage of this and pour more of your resources into your product and not maybe as much for the energy you need to make it?
you talking specifically to, how we made it to Huntsville? Is that correct?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or company wide. Just really
Okay.
sort of the philosophy of the company in that regard.
Sure. Yeah. We've had a small presence in Huntsville since I think 1987. Missile Systems was here, and Information Intelligence Systems was here as well. I don't have the history on Collins and Pratt, but I'm learning as we go. But for our missile integration facility on Redstone Arsenal, that was an interesting choice of locations. I believe that one of the primary reasons that we're here is our customer is here, and it makes sense. It's a great opportunity. We needed another location other than the home state of Arizona or New England, and this was an ideal opportunity for ripe for engineers. We worked on we have our state-of-the-art facility called the Facility of the Future. At the same time that we were designing that, we were on another project looking at the technician of the future. Who's going to work in this place? So this is an ideal location, I think, is part of that. Maybe part of that decision making as well. Of course, there were state incentives that go along with that. But the technician of the future looks like this: something like you have an engineer or an operator technician working on a piece of equipment, doing the manufacturing process, and if it breaks down, instead of calling in a mechanic, they have the ability to repair it on the spot. So that way you have minimal downtime, and you only need to call in outside services when absolutely necessary. Even like with our AGVs, that some of the people that we have here are able and capable of actually programming them and working on them. So found that to be very important. In this environment in Huntsville, it's easier to find those people. Great deal of engineering schooling here. I mean, the education here is phenomenal, and the resource pool is great. So I think that's the big piece of it.
Well, and we're getting a little short on time, and that's kind of where I wanted to wrap things up. Is as you venture off into these new areas, as technology continues to change, it's changing so rapidly. How is that changing your workforce? How is that changing your needs at the entry level position? And Don, if we could start with you, Microsoft is not a new company, but your initiatives have changed. The technologies in your space changes probably more rapidly than almost anywhere.
Absolutely.
So how do you keep that pipeline going and getting qualified people in the door to keep your workforce vibrant?
Yeah, no. So, I mean, as Microsoft itself, we're always looking for new talent. We look in a lot of unorthodox places when we look for new talent. But when we're looking at the industries that we face and our customers and partners, one of our core pillars is around workforce transformation and what it's going to take to upskill the next generation and reskill the current generation to work in this new kind of digital world that we find ourselves in, especially during this COVID-19 time where most of us are working from home. And this rapid shift that's happened over the last few months, we've seen incredible transformation in such a short period of time. And not just folks jumping online and utilizing platforms like this. Now we're having all our conferences virtually and things like that. But they're also looking at core infrastructure of companies, of factories, of supply chain. So similar to what Steve was talking about, we have kind of our bread and butter solutions around digital transformation, predictive maintenance, cognitive services, all these, a number of digital solutions to help be more efficient in our operations, process control, front office, back office. I mean, I can talk probably for the next hour and a half ad nauseum about all of the portfolio of technologies to enable the digital transformation that we find ourselves in today. But one of the things that I make sure that I back up a little bit, because we can certainly talk about technology as long as the day, but it's not about the technology. And I know that sounds funny coming from me, but it really is about the business. Business drives technology. It's not the other way around. The technology is to enable the people, right? To enable people and corporations to do more. So we have to make sure that we come back to that ground truth, because if you're just throwing technology and money at a problem, you're not necessarily going to solve it in the right way. So when we talk about smart cities, Microsoft has a number of initiatives called Accelerate that go into the cities, and we're looking at upskilling the workforce, giving a number of programs through education, K through 12, looking at the colleges, a number of programs we're working with colleges, and then with cities themselves, and helping to upskill frontline workers, from McDonald's all the way to the boardroom. We all are relying on digital technology, and we all need to learn more, myself included, right? Everybody needs to be able to learn more. And so as Microsoft, what we're doing is enabling the education, right? Because that's where it really does start, with being able to educate yourself. There's a number of online resources through Microsoft that you can go in and learn. A lot of things through LinkedIn learning that you can upskill, certifications that you can get to upskill. And then we offer a number of programs for companies themselves to be able to upskill their workforce to enable them for what's coming and what's here. And one other point that I'm going to put on that one is around the culture of digital technology. And so I'm just going to kind of leave that here. But, it's not just, again, about shoving technology down everybody's throats, but it's around the culture that enables this technology, because how we apply it to our smart cities, how we're applying it to our companies to solve the world's problems matters too.
Well, and we're getting real close out of time, but I can relate to that. And I'm going to take a moment of privilege here to say that, the culture is very important. Huntsville, due to its image, is a place where people expect us to be forward thinking, and they want to see those ideas and those efforts coming out of our community. I think it's high time that our city have an Office of Sustainability. A lot of people don't realize this, but sustainability involves a lot more than your utility. We certainly do play in that space, and we intend to keep playing in that space. But in partnership with our city, we could cultivate a culture where those opportunities come find us rather than us having to go look for them. Stacy, for example, is very interested at substation level storage. That we benefit from that in a number of ways, from redundancy to peak shaving to reliability, and all sorts of things that help stabilize rates. Those things help our generator as well. TVA, if as flat as you can make the demand, is the most ideal situation for your utilities and your customers, because when you can predict what the demand's going to be, well, then you can reduce your cost, because you know when to have what online, et cetera, sustainability. So in the spirit of keeping things on time, I want to thank all of our panelists. John, I'm sorry you had so many problems with your connection there. Steve, I know you have at least one question in the chat, so if you would get in there and something about batteries. Sure.
Yeah.
And thank everybody. I know there's a lot of friends on this call. Hello to you all, and look forward to the next event. Thanks, Grace.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, panel, thank you very much for the time that you've given us today, and just for talking about some very inspirational kind of topics. When you think about sustainability, impacts to humanity, I don't know about you, but that really gets me kind of excited. And the idea of education and, and the kind of the living laboratory, the living experimentation that allows us to adapt to the future. So thank you very much for joining us and for all the words that you provided. Thank you.